Well, hello there, and it's at Senior Mash with a quick 10-minute review of what the Six Nations holds for us this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Looking forward to it very much. Plenty going on. First of all, just an acknowledgement about Warren Gatland leaving Wales by mutual consent and Matt Sherratt taking over on a temporary basis. Lots of other names in the frame, and maybe we can run a poll on that. But for the moment, best wishes to Gats, who is a hell of a servant to rugby union, and his contribution should never ever be overlooked. So what I intend to do today is really just try to help in the next few minutes, help people understand the importance of kicking in rugby union, the kicking game. More and more important, more and more talked about. There are far better analysts on social media who can get into real detail with you. But for the folk who are just joining in, learning about rugby, just wanted to give you a heads up about what rugby union is and why kicking. So that's to come. Also want to introduce you to the teams for the weekend, let you know where they're playing and at what times, always important, and just give you a few names of players that I think it's worth keeping an eye out on. So, for the moment, let's talk about Six Nations Rugby Union. On Saturday, the 22nd of February, and Sunday, the 23rd of February, the third week of Six Nations takes place. So, kicking this weekend in the Six Nations will be important. Tactical kicking in international rugby, Six Nations, is not simply about booting the ball down the field. It is a calculated strategy, no doubt about that. It shapes the flow of the game, whether it's gaining territory, forcing defensive errors, managing the tempo of the game, or exploiting opposition weakness. Intelligent kicking remains a cornerstone of success at the highest level of international rugby. The best teams and players understand when to kick, where to kick, and how to execute under pressure. I think it makes it one of the most vital weapons in modern rugby union. And the introduction of the 50-22 has given it a new dynamic. It rewards teams with a line out. They get a throw in. If they kick from their own half and the ball bounces into touch inside the opposition's 22. And that has made a big difference to the way in which the teams defensively set up. Fascinating. Keep an eye out for it. You'll enjoy it. Take care. So that's the first step in reviewing the Six Nations this weekend. Now let's take a deeper dive and look at some of the other aspects of the game this weekend that I think you will find interesting. So that's the kicking. But this weekend at the Six Nations, if you're relatively new to the game, what should you be looking out for? Well, first of all, it's a full contact sport. So you'll really notice that whether it's Saturday or Sunday, this is full contact, 15 aside. The aim, of course, to score more points than the other team. You score points through tries, conversions, penalty kicks, and drop goals. Normally the game's 40 minutes each half, but the clock can run into the red, and you'll see that time and time again. Final whistle doesn't go until that phase of play is completed. That's important. It makes a big difference. Keep an eye out for it. Okay? So when you score a try, you get 5 points on the board. So what is a try? Well, you ground the ball over the opposition's try line. You then get an opportunity to do a kick called a conversion, and you can get 2 points for that. So if there's been an infringement and the referee bars for penalty, for instance, depending where you are on the pitch, you get another kick at the goals. You're trying to get it over the crossbar between the uprights. And if you do that with a penalty kick, well, that's 3 points. And then famously the drop goal. Johnny Wilkinson, Sydney, England win its first and only Rugby World Cup with a drop goal. Keep an eye out for that. Normally the number 10 will be doing that. So in rugby, the ball is in the hands. It's got to be passed backwards, but you can do a kick pass forward. It's got to be off the boot, not out of the hands. You can effectively, therefore, run it and kick it. But most of the game will either be in hand or tactical kicking. Tackling's allowed, and typically the referees are watching for high tackles, and you'll see yellow cards, bunkers, and red cards given for head contact. Rucks and mauls occur normally after a tackle, where the players are contesting for the ball, either in hand or on the ground. But you'll see them all at the line out. Offside, very common occurrence at all stages of the game. Normally, the moment the referee detects offside, blow the whistle, it's a penalty kick. Normally, it's either a let's kick at the goals for 3 points, or let's put it into touch for our line out. In terms of scrums and lineouts, that really excites me. The scrum is effectively the way in which rugby union restarts the game, normally after a knock-on, for instance. A knock-on is when the ball leaves the hands forward. The scrum is very structured these days, a lot safer environment, although huge kilos in each side scrum. 8 players, typically 900 to 950 kilos per side. The line out, well, that's used to throw the ball in when the ball's gone over the sideline. Typically, it's the number 2, the hooker, that throws in. Got to have good darts, good arrows, got to throw in straight. And you'll have between 2 and 7 in each team's line. They've got to be equal. So one team can't put in 4 and the other puts in 7. They've got to be equal. And typically, the jumper is lifted by colleagues. Historically, it would have been 2, but more and more we're seeing a one-man lift in an effort to prevent defensive lineouts disruption. So as you watch the Six Nations this weekend, you're going to see a dynamic game. It's contact sport. You're going to see huge physicality, strength, skill. Most of all, enjoy the Six Nations. Enjoy watching the 3 games. But when you get a chance, get down to your local club and watch some live rugby. Trust me, you'll enjoy it. And I do hope that my brief introduction to the laws of rugby are going to help you enjoy the game. So now it's who, where, and when. So let's look to Saturday, where our first game up is Wales versus Ireland in Cardiff, and that's followed by England versus Scotland. And on Sunday we move to Rome for Italy versus France. So let's get this straight. Kickoff times on Saturday, 2:15 Wales, Ireland, and then Scotland kicks off at 16:45 hours. And on Sunday, it's 3 o'clock in Italy. So set your times, all of it on free-to-air TV. So Ireland have selected a new captain in Dan Sheehan and have put Finlay Bealham on the bench, which was a surprise to me. In the back row, Jack Conan starts at number 8 for the injured Caelan Doris. That's going to be interesting. I also think Jamie Osborne at fullback is one to definitely keep an eye out. As for Wales, well, their new coach has gone for an interesting front row of Nicky Smith, Elliot Dee and Will Griff-John, keeping Daffy Jenkins and Will Rowlands in the second row. and introducing Jack Morgan, Tommy Raffel and Faletau into the back row. But for me, the interesting one is certainly the one for you to keep an eye out, and that is Ellis Mee. Ellis, who very recently was playing for Nottingham Trent University. So the Bucks Super League really providing quality players for the Six Nations. So good to see, and hat tip to Nottingham Trent University and to Ellis Mee. And certainly excited to see Dan Sheehan as the captain of Ireland, and he's certainly one of the players I would urge you to keep an eye on during this game. Very dynamic, great ball handling hooker. So thrilled for him, and I think his impact will be well made. So, two for you to keep an eye on in the opening game, and then we move on to London. Twickenham, or is it Allianz, for the England versus Scotland game. Steve Borthwick for England has put Ollie Chesham into the second row. He'd originally put George Martin on the bench, but subsequently George Martin has been replaced by Super Ted Hill. Very solid lineup once again, and we're looking forward to seeing Marcus Smith and Finn Smith working together. But it's certainly Finn Smith for me. Certainly good to see Finn Smith keeping the 10 shirt, and he is the player I would urge you to keep an eye out when the game kicks off at Twickenham on Saturday. But it's not only the English that we need to keep our eyes out for during this Six Nations. Scotland play some absolutely terrific rugby. Duhan van der Merwe loves playing against the English. But for me, at centre, it's Tom Jordan that I would urge you to keep an eye on. I've been really impressed by his rugby abilities, his eye for the space, and I like the speed of his feet. So watch out in the centres for Tom Jordan. And then on Sunday, we head over to Rome and we'll see Italy versus France. And once again, Fabien Galtier has picked an exciting French 15. Interesting to see Leo Barret start at fullback, with Thomas Ramos moving from the number 15 to the fly half position. For Italy, it looks to me that there's significant changes on the wing, with Simone Gessi coming in. As ever, I look to the back row of Italy with Sebastian Negri, Michel Lamaro and Lorenzo Canoni. But let's face it, the centre pairing of Menoncello and Brex is quite special. But players to watch. First of all, watch the front row of the French. Gross, Movaca and Antonio. Antonio, a giant of a tight head, I would think 23 stone. Gross showed 2 weekends ago his mobility. Front row forwards in France are much loved. These three, very much so. Keep your eyes on them. And for Italy, the player I encourage you to keep an eye out is their number 8, Lorenzo Canoni. Fascinating to see how he plays against Gregory Aldrit, who I consider to be one of the best number 8s in the world. But keep an eye out for that battle. Canone really is growing in stature during this year's Six Nations. It's a very important game. The Italians would love to win it. Maybe they will. And you might know that I do most of this work via Substack, although the guys at Talking Rugby Union help with YouTube. With that in mind, one of the subscribers to Substack has asked me to not forget the under 20s and the England A teams. You can see the results from the second round of the under 20 Six Nations, and you can see England's A team selection. Interesting in the under 20s to see
Friday, Bracken and a Fire. Some incredibly well-known names from the world of rugby. Wishing those three young guys the very best as they run out. I believe that you can watch the game live, so make sure you enjoy it. Thanks for joining me today. Enjoy this weekend's rugby. I'm Senior Mash. Thanks to National League Rugby, Six Nations Rugby social media, the social media teams for Scotland, Ireland, England, Wales, Italy and France, who, without their incredible material, doing such a review would be difficult. Enjoy the rules, understand the kicking, love the game.